Liquorland are proud partners of the AskPiesNation podcast for another season of footy. Pop into your local Liquorland today or shop online to pick up all your favourite drinks, and they just continue to stick by us, win or lose, Jack.
Absolutely, they do Liquorland. They're fantastic, Nico. And if you're not heading over to Adelaide this weekend for Gather Round, be sure to drop into Liquorland for all your beverage needs, and you can sit back and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the AskPiesNation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. I'm Nicholas Sacco, your host for this week's episode. We are at episode 6 of season 5, or episode 119 if you're counting from the beginning. We were brought back down to earth at the Gabba last week with a disappointing defeat to the Lions, but maybe it's the loss we needed to have before we go full steam ahead into what looks to be a massive clash in Adelaide this weekend. Today we speak about that loss against Brisbane, get some more quality thoughts as always on AskPiesNation, get to our votes, and we get to speak to another Guess the Crowd competition winner. And joining me today, as usual, Marcus Callahan, Jack Dugan. I'll start with you, Marcus, before we head to our special interstate guest over here. But I know it was a few days ago, but is it the loss that we were meant to have?
Yeah, feeling a bit flat and forgettable at the moment, boys, with the game being that long ago. This loss is one that's very difficult to get a proper read on with such an undermanned side in the tall stocks department. I'm just wondering whether we need to take a chill pill before really dissecting this one, as some Collingwood fans online, I believe, saying season over. Nico, you were loving those comments. Not
about, weren't they?
Yeah. So look, we just need to be very careful with how much we say the lid isn't off today, Jacko, because after that sort of performance, you come away feeling underwhelmed. Strange game of footy, but it's not the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit of a strange game of footy. I don't see Brisbane losing too many games at home either this year. They're very, very good on their home track. I think they've only been beaten 4 times out of 28 games or something up there, which is, an unbelievable record. Two of those times have been Collingwood, just a reminder. But it was a tough night at the office. Looked really, really good in the first quarter. I thought we were firing on all cylinders, and I thought if we can keep this up for at least a half of footy, we're going to go a long way to winning the game. Nick Dacos, as I'm sure we'll touch on throughout the pod again, was on fire early, but. Yeah, the Lions 6-0 second quarter. I mean, the game was really a one and done in that quarter there. We're never really able to fully recover. And although I thought we fought the game out reasonably well, Brisbane were just able to counter on us, especially far too easily. And it was a tough one as well, especially when you travel all the way up, Nico, at
What time did you get up to go there?
Ridiculous time. 3:30, I think, was my alarm set to get up on Thursday for a 6 o'clock flight or something like that. So, it was questioning my decision at that stage for sure. But everything was seamless right up until about quarter time. Everything was really, really going well. And then, the question started creeping in. What are we doing here? What are we doing this for? It's because we love the Pies. That's why. And we're doing it all again this week, I should say, at Adelaide. So looking forward to that.
We'll get to that. Have you learnt the lyrics to Take Me Home Country Road yet?
Oh, my God. That is my biggest carry-on for sure from Thursday night. After every goal, each player has their own song that they blast over the speakers, and no joke, I think the loudest noise from the stadium came when those songs were being sung. So, footy in Brisbane, it's a different atmosphere for sure.
They bring it at least.
That was a negative for Dukes' diary.
Yes, absolute negative.
Yes, let us know. Give us some feedback, because we've got another big edition coming this week while you take on Adelaide. That's for sure. But no, got to give credit. Brisbane always do bring a pretty good atmosphere. Whether they're going well or not, they always seem to bring the crowd. And I know there would have been at least 50-50 with Pies fans.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, what was the turnout in terms of proportions?
Very good. I can't really remember what the announcement was specifically, but it was up there with a high attendance for their home and away games at the Gabba for sure. Obviously, without being biased, I think us being there helps that immensely. We've got a lot of interstate fans that get to those games when they get the chance. And there was certainly a Collingwood presence. But for such a small ground, it brings a really, really electric atmosphere, especially when, unfortunately, the Lions are up and about. It's especially loud. But no, looking forward to getting back up there in the future for sure. I was saying to Nico off air, Marcus, might be a bit of a controversial call, but after being the SCG twice, I actually rated the Gabba much higher.
Uh-huh.
Lights staying on the whole game,
I was going to
preferably.
say,
But yeah, really enjoyed my experience at the Gabba.
I bet you were wishing those lights were going off halfway through the
Oh,
third.
yes, I was actually, but no, yeah. Anyway,
Let's get to the part that caught your eye then from Thursday's clash. It would have been plenty, I'm sure, Jack, sitting there in the stands. But who was one that stood out to you?
Brody Myercheck this week for mine, gents, was the player that caught my eye. I thought on a night where we struggled with connection. I know in Fly McRae's presser after the game, he spoke a lot on that connection and how with perhaps a few players not executing their role to the perfection that we've seen the first 3 weeks, that Brody was actually bucked that trend. And, you know, he was the typical Brody Myercheck that we've come to know over the past sort of 4 years of watching him go about his footy. He finished with 13 disposals and 3 goals. I thought he was single-handedly going to drag us back into the game there in the third quarter, kicked a couple of absolute rippers. But yeah, so all in all, on a night out where, you know, a few were sort of fell short of the mark, I felt, I thought Brody once again was able to produce, what we've come to expect of him.
He played all but 3 minutes of the game as well on Thursday. He just works incredibly hard. And you're right, those few goals that he kicked in that third quarter really did try and bring us back. But fortunately, just wasn't enough in the end. Marcus.
Pilot caught my eye this week, one that was really big news story in the 24 hours preceding the game. Jack Crisp, fellas, I wanted to have a chat about. Crispy, of course, a great friend of the Pies Nation podcast, and just wanted to, I guess, understand your perspectives on him playing. I think he clearly wanted to suit up. He was up there with the family, I understand, so it would have been incredibly awkward for him with the kids and the wife and all that sort of thing, having to go through what he went through. My understanding is today that he's been cleared of any suspension, so the game streak is still live, which is wonderful for Collingwood supporters and Jack. But there was clearly a lot on his mind, as you would expect going into that game. So we'll ask the question, Nico, should he have played?
Oh, look, I mean, only he can really answer that question. If he was determined to use it as a distraction from everything that had happened in the build-up to the game, then you can't blame him for wanting to get out there and playing his part for the team. And it was great that when he did kick that goal, that had a lot of support fans. Well, I wish fans. I'm sure they would have all gone to get him. But no, a lot of teammates get around him and give him that support that he needed. So I'm sure that would have helped his cause as well. But yeah, I mean, with the news coming in today that everything had been cleared and it had sort of been stuff that was rehashed rather than fresh, I guess it was the beneficiary for all parties involved. And yeah, we can sort of start to move on now. But yeah, you can only imagine what he would have been going through within the news breaking and the game playing as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Nico. I just want to echo your sentiments there. I think because this situation, it has come out today that this is something that's been rehashed from a few years ago. That's definitely plays a massive part in Jack Crisp playing on Thursday night. I think if this was something that happened only weeks or months ago, that a different approach might have been taken. But because Jack and his family were already aware of the situation and the news that broke, I think that was probably put him in a better situation to deal with it. Obviously, as you touched on, Marcus, it did seem to affect him, especially earlier on in the game. There was a few clangers. He wasn't alone either. There was a lot of clangers from a lot of players right throughout the game. But yeah, I think situational was a word that it's coming to my mind, in that if it had been more recent news, I don't think he would have taken to the field. But because it's something that's been rehashed, I think no dramas with him taking the field on Thursday night.
Yeah, thanks for that, boys. Let's hope he does bounce back big this week and can move past this as swiftly as possible after doing all the checks and balances with the AFL's integrity unit. But that was a quiet game for Crispy. I think we all know why, so I'm sure it'll be a blip on the radar. Pie that caught your eye, please, Nick.
Went for a man that probably played his best game all year, and that was Braden Maynard. I don't think he likes Brisbane. I really don't think, because every time we head to the Gabba, he seems to be in the thick of it. But he had a superb game, and I think he really brought that aggression at times when it was needed. He finished with 25 disposals at 76% efficiency, 582 metres gained, along with 7 score involvements and 7 rebound 50s. And I think that was the key to it. You know, someone had to stand up across that half-back line. Our back six were getting touched up, particularly in those second and third quarters, and Braden Maynard was someone that could come in and provide that run and just try and build something again. We all seemed pretty flat when they got to 7, 8, 9, 10 goals in a row, but Someone that never stopped trying was Braden Maynard, and it was terrific to see from someone in the leadership group, someone that's been in that leadership group of recent times, and someone that was, just willing to take the game on when required. Might not have worked 100% of the time, but you just can't fault the effort, and he absolutely stood out for me in those passages when we were really feeling it against the Lions' tirade of goals.
Particularly early, some blistering runs through the middle
Mm.
of the ground, and we'll get to this in a moment, but I did love that he continued to take the game on through the corridor
Yep.
as per the coach's instruction. Jack?
Yeah, much like Brody Mychek, gents. I think we saw a Braden Maynard on Thursday night that was just very typical of what we've come to expect over the past sort of 3 to 4 seasons. It's hard, tough, and continue to take the game on and play his role to perfection. So, yeah, outstanding game from Braz in, there was not many outstanding players out there on Thursday night, Nico.
No, that's for sure. Well, let's break down, I guess, the particular factors as to what the Lions did to get on top of us. And to be honest, their run in that second quarter was just really, really, we played pretty well for 3 quarters. And it was that second term that blew us out of the park. And we ended up chasing for the remainder of the game and ended up having 10 consecutive goals kicked against us, which weeks ago we probably weren't even thinking the side was capable of doing. Yet they started to get on that run and we didn't have the answers. For me, we still continue to play the way that we usually have over the last few weeks, but whether it was them reading our handballs or their ability to just apply a lot more pressure than we just weren't able to get anything moving forward, and our back six was just under that much pressure. They weren't able to absorb anything, and as a result, the Lions forwards just feasted at the goals, and that's why we saw high goal tallies from the likes of Charlie Cameron and Cam Rayner. Of course, Joe Danaher saves his best games for us. Another typically great game from him, 20 touches and 2 goals. But what was it in that midfield that really got us a bit unstuck?
I think it's obvious the no ruckman.
Mm.
I mean, we had the conditions as well, which didn't really. I thought the Lions adapted better as they're much more used to playing in the. It wasn't dewy, or was it, Jack? Like it seemed as if our first touch was nowhere near as good as theirs.
Yeah, it is. It was a warm night on Thursday night, that's for sure, and no doubt that plays havoc on the conditions. With the Lions boys being much more used to playing in those conditions, as you just mentioned, Marcus. Hard to get a gauge on how slippery the ball is sitting in row E, but no, it didn't look too bad. Didn't look like we were fumbling because of that. Seemed to be that the skill errors came from missed handballs or missed kicks, not slipping through the hands that you would usually expect in a wet weather or a dewy game. So, yeah, that was the big one for me that I
And
thought
missed
we got
tackles,
exposed on.
boys. It just seemed so obvious. We just couldn't stick any tackles, particularly when Brisbane were making those chains of handballs. When, look, obviously, from watching it on the screen, it looked as though it was so simple for them to get a handle. And it might have been a different story to actually being there, but you don't expect that from a Collingwood side of late. They've always have 2 or 3 at each contest, but they were running rings around us.
They were, and I felt they were keeping their shape a bit better than us as well. We obviously wanted to take the game on, get a lot of numbers around the footy and transfer it quickly. But when the turnovers came, they were out and they really countered with a punch. And I think we got exposed a number of times, particularly in that second term, which then allowed them to gather momentum. So it was a game that was very difficult to see us going the journey after we got 5 or 6 kicked on us. The response was okay in the second half, but I felt that we had Crispy, that obviously would have been going through the team. We had the tall stocks, and then we had those 666 penalties go against us, which were extremely frustrating. So it just felt by that point in the game, despite our fight and desire to get back into it, just a few too many things had gone wrong.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Marcus. How frustrating was that, gents,
Yeah.
about the 666? I mean, sitting there as a fan at the game, you just wonder how you can get that wrong 3 times in one quarter. I mean, obviously one being the warning and then they get the 2 free kicks afterwards. So that was, immensely frustrating. Just before we move on from the big bloke situation, I did find it interesting that the centre clearances, we still won by 3, 15 to 12. Being at the game, it was clear that the midfielder's objective wasn't always to try and take the advantage of our ruckman and instead shark off Oscar McInerney and Joe Danaher or Hipwood, whoever was pinch hitting in the ruck, which I actually thought we did okay in the first quarter. I got blown away a bit in that second quarter. If we want to look at what we do to opposition teams, we've got to look at it on Thursday night with Brisbane really, really hurting us on the counter attack. It was one or two skill errors, and that's all it took for them to be off to the races and scoring at the other end. And to be honest, I thought we probably looked just as good doing that until probably the last 2 or 3 kicks going inside forward 50, which is something we have mentioned on the pod early stages of this year, that where we just not quite making the right decisions or not quite executing that kick. So I thought that was where we broke down a bit.
Well, we talk about that pressure, and I think that was a key contributor to the Lions being more efficient with their clearances. Yes, we may have won the count, but yeah, we didn't really seem to make the most of it from our point of view. So, knowing that this is going to be a ruck situation for at least a couple of weeks, is the onus then on the midfielders to have a bit more of a game plan about what's going to happen? Because I'm sure there's been set plays with stoppages, and a lot of clearance work has been done with Cameron Cox, but they're not there, and someone coming in like a McStay or a Frampton might not be aware of what those situations are. I mean, of course they would. It's a one club mentality with the tactics, but at the end of the day, when you're actually in a game situation, it might not refer to you as much as maybe it would for Cameron Cox, who's done the situation so many times. So,
Mm.
is it on the midfielders, or are there other options around that we need to try and maybe implement over the next fortnight before we get some tall stocks back?
Great question, because it's going to go a long way to our record at about
Mm.
round 7, round 8, Nick. I don't have the answer for that. I'm not sure if the players do just yet as well. Dan McStay was serviceable in the ruck, but at the end of the day, Omac just so big. He
Mm.
was literally just keeping him out of the way with his body and putting it to wherever he needed to. So I don't know what the answer is there, but do we need to potentially adapt our game style to not be going so quickly all the time? If there is an issue at the source where our players are still getting their hands to it, but might not be getting it in the positions they'd typically like to, and that sort of thing. It's one game. It's be careful
Mm.
not to knee-jerk react, but there is potentially something there that we need to be mindful of, I feel.
Well, I think there just has to be a plan B, because we're coming up against a Saints side who have started to play that way in their own right. I know obviously Ross Lyon has been focused on the defensive side of their game, but they've been winning football and they've been building a lot of momentum. So if we get to half time and we're down by quite a few goals playing this way, then there has to be something in the coaching manual to look at and say, all right, well, let's maybe change this and move some different players around. So it might not necessarily be about changing our tactics, but just having that backup in the event that maybe there is another injury, or you know our tall stocks are going to remain like this for maybe a bit longer than a couple of weeks. That's all I think. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I agree. Like Marcus, I don't have the answer for this one thing. And I think you talk about knee-jerk reactions. It is just one game. I think we've got to try and get through the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we want to win, but competing at a fairly high level, because not having those two big ruckmans we don't need to speak on it anymore. It's clearly going to affect us hugely. So just if we can somehow manage to win the next two or get through the next two unscathed, and just
Hmm.
try and get 4 points, then that would be absolutely huge. I don't think we need to make dramatic changes in the way we play our game. I think still going quickly is, it's been Fly McRae's footprint over the past year and a half. So still keep with that, but because what can happen if you adapt too quickly is automatically Coxie comes back in and you're playing a slow game style.
Mm.
Do we revert back to that as well, or
Yeah.
I'm not really too sure. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Don't make massive changes, but also adapt to your situation slightly.
Something that does have to change is this goal kicking, though, boys. The inaccuracy is really starting to have an effect. We know the Richmond game a couple of weeks ago, I know there were different conditions with the wet weather, and you may have been able to have a bit more of a leniency for it, but there were so many opportunities for us to get within 2 or 3 goals when we did concede that run that Brisbane had. And I think when Nick Dacos is running into an open goal and he's missing, then that
Mm.
probably sums up the night. So again, it's becoming costly, I think, and it does slow down the momentum we're trying to build in getting back into games. And maybe it does make players think twice about the style of football we're having, because we're just not getting it done on the scoreboard.
No, and it's really frustrating when you again look at their 26 scoring shots to our 28, and what could have been
Mm.
had we kicked straighter in front of goal. Jamie Elliott had a bit of a dog of a night. He got to the right spots but couldn't finish.
Mm.
And there were just too many moments where we could have had better connection heading inside 50, but wrong option was made, and then all of a sudden the ball goes over the player's head and it's a behind instead of a marked goal in the square, that sort of thing. Bobby Hill comes to mind in that instance. But it's something we've learned to accept as Collingwood supporters, unfortunately, that there's often games where we are kicking more behinds than goals. It's not a sustainable avenue to winning games, obviously, but I do still feel like we were just that little bit less tidy with some of that dewier weather than the boys would get at the G, because it does seem like when we go away from home that these sort of conditions do get the better of us from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it was a different sort of vibe to the Richmond game, where you felt in the Richmond game we were dominating so much passage of play, and we weren't capitalising on all our hard work. And I felt that in the Brisbane game, when we did concede the 6-0 in the second quarter, the game was sort of one and done. So anything after that, the inaccuracy doesn't help, but I don't think it's the big reason why we lost the game, because by the time we were kicking poorly in that third, fourth quarter, the game was really, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but the game was really over. So yeah, different. I think it's slightly different to the Richmond game, but yeah, still one we need to improve on.
6-11 to 9-4 after half time. So that does have a bit of an impact. And of course, we had more inside 50s too. So again, that says a lot. So hopefully something we can just work on, and that way it will allow us to start building some more confidence going inside 50. Nick Dacos, another terrific game from him, 38 touches, 633 metres gained, 76% efficiency, 2 goals, could have been 3 or 4, 16 contested possessions and 12 score involvements. Now, without putting attention on the morons that think that this guy's not efficient or has any impact on a contest, he's not there on Thursday night. We probably lose by a lot more than we did. So just another shout out to Nick and his brilliant ability to keep us in games.
Obviously Charlie Cameron with the 6 goals probably gets the 3 Brownlow votes, but does Dacos
has to get at
one?
least, I think, 1 or 2. Has to be.
It has to be in the votes when you're 12 possessions ahead of the next bloke on the ground. And I think that was Pendles for us and Will Ashcross for the Lions, who was very good, mind you. It's crazy. He might be sitting on 8 Brownlow votes, 7 Brownlow votes after 3 games. How about it?
That's why he's a favourite.
And I don't know if this was noticeable on the TV, but to me, being there, I loved the fact that after halftime, we identified that Reef wasn't having a really great impact on the game. We were able to make that tactical substitute, bring Oleg Markov in, throw him to halfback, and then throw Nick forward of the ball to try and win the game, as opposed to just going through the motions of the game, which is a typical Collingwood trait that we've seen over the past 10 years or so. So I really enjoyed that, although it didn't really bring any sort of fruits or anything like that in terms of a win, but I just really love that attitude from Fly McRae, always
Correct.
trying to win the game.
Yeah, and it hasn't usually been the case for Collingwood teams in the past as well. Sorry, Bucks, that we maybe didn't make those changes previously. So yeah, it's great to see. What did we think of Oleg Markov when he came on? It was touted that he was going to be the sub maybe hours before the teams came out, but it was great to see him get that opportunity and someone that could come in at half back line and just, again, like Jack said, just try something different, inject a bit more pace, or just something different to the game.
We called for it not long ago on the pod, just wanting to see change where we weren't going well. And even though we didn't ultimately get over the line, it's a positive step. I think him playing keeps him hungry, and that's healthy in a side where you want to reward performance. My understanding, he's had a very solid performance in the VFL the week before the Lions game. So as long as Fly is sticking true to his mantra of wanting to reward blokes who are really stepping up at VFL level, and we'll get to a few of those later in the pod, I think that's wonderful. It wasn't his night, but he'll be better for that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they stand out often, the subs, with their new fresh pace when they come off the bench after a half of footy's been played, especially in humid conditions. But the pace was exceptional. He was very, very fast, and I'd almost be interested to see what that pace would look like over 4 quarters of footy instead of just a half. But no, really, I was pleased with Oleg Markov's impact on the game. I mean, there's like many on the night, there was a few skill errors in terms of errant kicks and handballs, but you can cop that. I mean, I was really, really impressed with his pace again. So yeah, would be interesting to see what that looked like over 4 quarters, I reckon.
How many times would he have been called Bruz on the night, thinking in the number 37 running around that he was Braden Maynard? But I agree, yeah, it was great to see him get that opportunity, and I'm sure there are plenty more to come. Any other facets of Thursday night that took you by surprise or caught your eye before we move on?
Yeah, look, we overall have had a good month of footy, so important to celebrate the wins.
Where's the lid?
Ask Derek.
Where's the lid?
Next week when we play the Saints.
Oh, yeah, he'll be up and about.
Bobby Hill's goal.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Can we just spend a moment on that? I think it was maybe 3-4 bounces, Jacko, running into an open goal. It was a bit of a Lewis Jetta against us
Oh,
at
don't
the
bring that game up.
SCG, however many years ago it was. Nick, you'd know, being the
2012
historian.
prelim anyway.
2012. What did you make of that? Was he lightning across the ground?
Absolutely, it was. Number one highlight for me going to Brisbane, that was what I took away. It was electric. Bit of a strange one in the crowd. You mean, you see that at the MCG and it would just about blow the fake roof off the MCG, as the commentators often say. But yeah, it was amazing. It was so weird to see such an amazing goal like that kick not get the full-on amazing crowd reaction that we've come to expect at Collingwood games, but I suppose that's just the interstate trip. But yeah, no, that was number one highlight, no doubt, for me, and just his presence and awareness in that moment to steal the ball off. I think from memory, was
Harris
it a tackle?
Andrews.
Yeah, Harris Andrews, and was able to knock the ball away and just leave him in the dust. So yeah, unbelievable from Bobby Hill, who's had a really, really solid month for the Pies.
Correct.
Well, I don't want to toot my own horn or jinx him, but he's already got 7 goals. I said he kicked 25 plus, so he's
On track.
looking
Well
good
and truly.
early, which is great to see. Let's get to the votes then. 3, 2, 1 from our Thursday night encounter, Jack.
So I've given one to Bruz for all the reasons that we've outlined already in the pilot court. Our eye, he was exceptional, typical in many ways, and likewise with the bloke who I've given 2 votes, Brody Myercheck. Again, just typical Checkers performance on a night where a lot of blokes weren't really executing their role to perfection. And 3 I've given to Nick Dacos. I mean, you can't not. It's just, I don't need to waffle on about why I've given him 3 votes.
You can. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
No, he was exceptional, and yeah, I'm so excited to see. You know, we obviously know how exciting he is off half back, but we threw him forward at times in the midfield. He's starting to, get a few clearances as well, which is exciting. So yeah, it's a pleasure to watch him go about his work week in, week out.
Beautiful. One for me went to Checkers. I thought he was very serviceable, not only around the goals in that third term, but also constantly leading up at the ball. 2 went to Pendles. He had an underrated game. He was
big
just
time.
around the footy all the time, doing all the right things. And I just, again, 35 years old, how you're covering a game of AFL like the way he is truly extraordinary. And he's not a fast bloke either. And 3 votes goes to you-know-who. Nico?
Stiff Brody Myercheck, he just misses out in my votes. I had to give 1 to Pendles for his game. You mentioned it before, how underrated he was. 26 touches at 88% efficiency, which we can just come to expect from him. Almost 400 metres gained along with 6 inside 50s. He was superb. 2 votes goes to Braden Maynard, as I mentioned, probably his best game of the year so far in the black and white. And, of course, Nick Dacos gets the 3. Not much more you can say. The fans agreed. Almost a 300 vote gap between Nick Dacos and the second most voted player
Fair
in Scotty
enough.
Pendlebury, which I think says all you need to know. Maynard gets 8, Myercheck 7, Jordan De Goey gets 6, Ash Johnson comes in with 5 votes, Bobby Hill gets 4, Nathan Murphy gets 3, John Noble gets 2, and Isaac Quainer rounds out the top 10 with 1. And looking at the full leaderboard, Nick Dacos has a 10-vote lead ahead of Jordan De Goey. And then following on from there, Scotty Pendlebury in 3rd, Josh Dacos in 4th, and Tom Mitchell in 5th. So the top 5 doesn't change. Scott Pendlebury just 1 vote behind Mitchell in 6th spot. So that is the votes from the fans. Speaking of fans, we've got plenty of discussion points on Ask Pies Nation for you right on the other side. This halftime break is brought to you by Liquorland. Liquorland have all your drink needs for when the siren calls. So it doesn't matter, quarter time, half time, before, after, they're right there for you, ready to deliver with the drinks.
They absolutely are, Nico, and they are absolutely everywhere. I've got a Liquorland about 500 metres from my front door, so it suits me perfectly. Can race over and grab all the drinks that I need. So Liquorland, massive shout out.
Pop into your local Liquorland today or shop online and click and collect in just 30 minutes. Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly. Welcome back to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Let's get straight into Ask Pies Nation. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, we are there. Ask Pies Nation is where you can get involved. And we've got another great question here from Lukey Boy, who goes, which parts of our game got exposed against Brisbane on Thursday night? Is there a cause for concern, or are we happy to take the lessons at this point of the year? So definitely generated a lot of discussion across Twitter and Instagram. So let's jump right into it. Start on Twitter. Khan D. Woods. Just one bad quarter. I felt like we got back in the contest in the second half but missed our opportunities. Leave McStay in the forward line. Frampton ruck. Ash pinch hit. Drop Quainer. Keep Markov. So bang already with the selections from Khan D. Woods. Straight into it.
I don't think sacking McStay in the ruck and putting him in full forward is the option for mine, gents. I mean, I spoke about it a bit on the Richmond game, how McStay just doesn't seem to be taking the number one man role quite on board just yet. I mean, we have had such a spread of goal kickers, so he hasn't really needed to. But, I think we threw him forward late in the last quarter, and I was on McStay watch, and again, just putting himself not in very good positions or not presenting to the ball carrier, sort of standing not too close to the goal line, but not too close to forward 50 either. So, yeah, one to watch for sure. I think you can't afford to have a guy who's had such experience in the ruck like McStay. I thought he was serviceable on Thursday night, not rucking in there. So for mine, he stays there. Don't know about dropping Isaac Quainer. That was
Yeah, that was a big call.
bit rough.
Bit harsh.
He was nowhere near Charlie Cameron on the rebound time and time again on the weekend, but the game was gone by that point.
And he wasn't alone.
No, not at all. Not at all. So to single him out's a bit unfair.
Ahmed on Twitter, the Johnson McStay ruck situation did not work. We need to hold it until Coxey's back. Turnovers killed us across the half-back line. Our defence lacked accountability and gave the opposition way too much space. Continue to bomb away inside 50. Need to lower our eyes more. And I think that last point just comes off a bit of desperation when we were just really trying to get ourselves back in the game. Maybe we were getting away from what was being taught by Fly and lowering the eyes and just sort of wanted to get it in there and trusted our small forwards to keep it in there. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So, interesting point.
Really, really enjoyed that defence lacking accountability as well, Nico. I thought we got exposed there, especially not so much when they were going quick, but when they were going down the line. A lot of our players got caught up too high on the ball, probably ball watching a little bit and not being able to get back and help the long high ball coming in. So, yeah, that'll be one to watch this week, no doubt.
Emma Zipper on Twitter, our pressure dropped in the second quarter. McStay in the ruck threw out the forward structure ahead of the ball. Lost connection and territory as a result. Defenders pressed too far up, so they got caught out the back and close to goal when Brisbane got possession. Plus 2 6-day breaks did not help. Interesting
6-day break.
Interesting point. We've got one game in Melbourne next month. We've got Brisbane, off to Adelaide. We come back for Anzac Day, and we're back to Adelaide again to play the Crows. So definitely a bit of travel for us Pies, a lot more than usual. So one to keep an eye out for. Slick on Twitter, we were a little like bees to a honeypot, where opposition kicked long and high to a contest. All our mids were at the tall's feet, but all night it was getting knocked forward 5 metres away from the initial contest, and we never adjusted. But to their credit, the Lions did. Interesting call.
Yep, not bad. I think that we were getting sucked in around the source a little bit too often. We still ran in numbers, which was positive, but just got found out as they were far better positionally.
Slick actually added another tweet here, which was one to keep an eye on. Kicking accuracy, of course, plus Chris for the first time in his 184 games for the Pies. Lowered his colours. I've never seen him play so timid and fragile, understandably. Lost his run and carry all game, which I think is where Braden Maynard was really highlighted in this match because he sort of took that mantle away from Chris, knowing that he probably wasn't able to deliver that concept of the game as much as he usually has. So another reason why I think he had an outstanding game. Did Braden Maynard. Brent as a party on Twitter, our organisation and our press. The Lions showed exactly how to beat the zone. Make a mini break, then kick over the top. Some of the easiest goals I've ever seen. What are your thoughts there in terms of the tactics that we're trying to instill in our game?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I really didn't get a proper read on this game, full stop. But whatever's happening, I'm just treating it as a blip on the radar. Again, I think we've spoken at length about where we might have gone wrong. It's just hopefully we don't see it happen again as badly as we did on the weekend.
Yeah, just wanted to highlight Craig McRae talking about connection again. He said after the game, that's something we really, really pride ourselves on. It was something he felt that on Thursday night we weren't really well connected as a unit. And so hopefully, a week on the track, we can really rectify that going over to Adelaide.
Joel Greer on Twitter, probably how we defend high up the ground. There were so many loose Lions players in their forward line because we'd push all our players up the ground. Also, we need to play tempo footy when the opposition is pushing hard. We can't go ballistic. for the whole game.
That is a very good point, and perhaps a strategy we would like to see if we don't have true ascendancy over the game. Take the game on, obviously, but also wanting to make sure that we're not constantly opening ourselves up to counter-attack scores. Good point.
A couple more to wrap up as we head over to Instagram. Joshy497. From watching at the game, we weren't as clean around the contest, and that didn't allow us to play fast footy. But if we kicked straight, we stay in the game as well. We missed a lot of easy shots. Even without a ruckman, we had plenty of chances to win it. We just had an off game, and Brisbane played one of their best. Really, we were still pretty close to them beside the second quarter. No reason to panic, move on to the Saints, so he's ready to go, but does make some interesting points just about that inaccuracy again, which we spoke about. Opportunities to get within that 2-3 goal margin were pretty much wiped away with us not kicking straight. And we'll wrap up here with Conquer2 on Instagram. Overconfidence got us not sticking to the plan, trying to overcompensate for no ruck instead of playing to no ruck. Time to change tact. Bring in Guinea.
Jack Ginnivan to
Jack
come in.
Ginnivan. Now, there has
In
been
the
a
ruck.
few calls. Could you imagine? How would that,
Jack
how would
Ginnivan
that
in
go,
the
you
ruck.
reckon? Jack Ginnivan in the
You
ruck.
get a high tackle, I tell you that much.
But there have been a lot of calls for him to come back into this team now, Jack Ginnivan. Now, we'll get to the VFL report in a few moments. I don't think he's someone that particularly stood out. But, I don't know, Jack Ginnivan, does a spark like him come back in, or are we getting too premature with his return to the team?
Is he a sub option, or is that just silly?
I don't think that's silly at all. I think a sub option is definitely there. It's one of those things, Nico, if you are going to overreact, I don't think we actually have the capability to overreact with no ruck stock, to be perfectly honest with you. I think we're just in a situation that no side would want to be in, that we literally have our backup ruckman's hurt. We've got a bloke who's come off on our rookie spot list.
So unlucky.
Who's it's just one of those really unfortunate situations we've got ourselves in, that we just got to try and get through. But if we were going to overreact, I mean, we could just play really, really small. Brings blokes like Ginnivan in and just, try and play that, smaller side. But I don't know if that solves anything.
Small ball like they do in the NBA. Do you reckon that would work here for the Pies? I'm not too sure. Might as well put Pendles in the ruck at this point. But that was AskPiesNation, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are everywhere at the moment, even though the lid's on. We are trending everywhere, so make sure to get involved. At PiesNation across all our platforms. Let's get to our Guess the Margin, which we'll skip past very quickly because we lost and we don't like shouting at anyone that tipped against us. So we'll move on to our Guess the Crowd winner. So we got our handy invention. Thank you, Derek, with our cans underneath the table. So seamless use of the headphones here. We're on the board. As you can see, we've just put them on magically. So everyone seems to be hearing each other pretty good. Marcus is still having trouble, but Will just won't show that edit when he's trying to put his...
I think we've had a giant on before me. There, Nico.
Still working through it. In the meantime, we're going to give our next guest, the crowd member, a call. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe it was only about 100 people off. Was it 33, I think? 34,000 in the end at the Gabba?
Yeah, well, they don't show the attendance until the fourth quarter, Nico, and by that stage I was seriously just having other thoughts apart from how many people were at the game. But no, I think it was, definitely over that 32,000 mark. It was a really, really good turnout at the Gabba, and I'm actually really looking forward to going back there, hopefully under different circumstances at the end.
Well, let's get our Guess the Crowd winner on the line now. It's Holly Evans for her guess. I think it was within 100, so let's hear from her.
Hello?
Hello, is this Holly?
Yes, this is.
Hi, it's Nicholas from the PiesNation podcast here. Congratulations on getting our Guess the Crowd competition win for this week. Great to have you on the pod. Tell us, straight into it, were you watching the game against the Lions on Thursday night? Are you from Victoria? Were you even at the Gabba yourself? Tell us how you were watching on Thursday night.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I watched it from home. I'm from Melbourne, so I didn't make the trip up, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. But yeah, just watched it from home.
Hi, Holly. Just Jack here. Thank you so much for coming on. We've been talking a little bit on the pod today about sort of overreactions on, is this just a blip on the radar? How do you see the Pies coming back from our first loss of 2023?
I think that during the game, I thought it was awful, but I don't think it's actually that concerning. Like, any team would struggle having both their ruckmans out and having to adjust. And obviously Brisbane are really good at the Gabba. They're not good anywhere else. But yeah, I think it was just unfortunate, but I don't think it'll set us back at all. I think we'll beat St Kilda this weekend and come back up.
Love the confidence there, Holly. Marcus here, and thank you for joining us. Just curious to know, when you do get to the footy, whereabouts do you sit? Who do you get along with? And is it week to week, or do you just get along for the bigger matches?
No, well, I have always been in the MCC with my family.
Beautiful.
But this year I'm an AFL member, so I've been going
Ah.
every week, but last week, but the Brisbane game. So I'll try and get to as many games as I possibly can.
Doing it in style. We like that.
Straight
Yeah.
from MCC to AFL, got it all covered. Holly,
Yeah.
tell us about your journey as a Pies fan. How did it all start? And yeah, what have been some of your better memories along the journey?
I've been a Pies fan since I was born. My dad's mad Collingwood, so he had a little jersey ready for me straight away and signed me up for MCC when I was born. And yeah, look, I'm a mad Collingwood supporter. My rest of my family is Essendon and Carlton, unfortunately.
Gee
Yeah.
whiz, how did that happen?
I don't know. It's a rough household sometimes, but yeah, no, I'm mad Pies, always been. And last year was my favourite year, actually. I think, like, even though we didn't get the job done, it was just so exciting all year. And this year, hopefully, will be the same. And yeah.
Absolutely, it was. I think it was a favourite year of all of us
100%.
for sure. If I can just stay on the MCC topic, if I may, both Marcus and myself frequent visitors to the well-established Melbourne Cricket Club. A bit of a debate that rages on amongst myself and friends is there a certain age where you can't wear a jersey over your collared shirt, Holly? Like, what's your stance on that? Do you reach maybe, is it 14 where you can't wear it anymore, or should you just be allowed to wear it whenever you want?
Oh, I think as long as you've got the collared shirt, you should be wearing it every game.
Yep, love that response.
But yeah, no, I actually find that sitting with like in the AFL members area is more enjoyable than the MCC. I feel like it's sometimes a bit quiet.
Great call, great call. I myself have recently converted in the past few years, Nico, from sitting away from the MCC
Have you just?
and sitting instead with my Collingwood membership, and I can say that the fan experience is much better sitting away from the MCC.
It's no general admin, mate, that's for sure. You get a whole different experience there. Who you talked about having, a jumper from a young age, Holly? Who was it on the back of your jumper that? Who were some of your favourite players?
I can't remember who would have been there back then, but my favourite player growing up was Dane Beams.
Beamsy. Yep.
Beamsy.
Yes, I really liked Beams and Didak were my favourite. And then I love Darren Jolly as well.
Darren Jolly.
Yeah.
Geez, we could use him right now, I reckon.
Yeah, I know we could. And then now it'd have to be Maynard, 100%.
Great
Would be my favourite.
Great list of players there.
And your thoughts of him in the number 4?
I love it. Well, it's his favourite number, so I'm happy for him. But I was used to him in his old number. But yeah, he's good in the 4.
Before we wrap up, Holly, we always ask all the members that join us as part of the Guess the Crowd competition about a unique Collingwood memory that you've had over your time supporting the Pies. It might not necessarily be the big final or the massive game. Is there a unique Collingwood moment that stands out for you since you've been a supporter of Collingwood?
Yes, I always think of this whenever I listen to the podcast. I always think what mine would be. And I'd have to say, I think it was 2010 prelim against Geelong, and Lee Brown, I think, kicked it from 65 metres out.
Yes.
This is good.
Leroy.
Yeah, and it was going straight for the point post, and it bounced and took a sharp right straight through the goals. So it reminded me of Bo McCreary's goal against Port. Reminded me a little bit of that with the bounce.
Boys, I'm just going to chime in live here. I think this is my favourite memory that anyone's brought up on the line. Holly, you've taken me straight back to where I was sitting in the MCC for that match, and you have never seen a wrong-un like that before in your life, have you, Nick?
No, that was a quality goal, and I think that was what spurred us to get a big win over the Cats that day, that's for sure. But great to reminisce with you, Holly. Appreciate you coming on and joining us on the Pies Nation podcast, and hopefully we've got plenty more wins to celebrate this year.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly. Cheers.
Thanks, Holly. Bye-bye.
And there we go. That was Holly bringing us back with some Leroy Brown material. We never complain when that comes up.
Number 15, also a serviceable ruckman as well.
15. Yeah, well, he would also be handy to bring back in if we could possibly bring that. All right, well, that was Guess the Crowd. That could be you, of course, if you guess the crowd closest. So be sure to keep up with all the game day posts that Lukey delivers on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you guess closest to the crowd, that will be you joining us on the podcast. Let's take the cans off. Very seamless, as we always like to do. How good is that? Just perfect. Straight under the table, like no one's watching.
Thought you would have cut to me there, Nick, when you were having a little bit of trouble getting it on the hook there, and just Derek weaves his magic and
Yeah, we're going back now. Seamless. That's how we like to do it. Let's get to the VFL report now, boys. Marcus, you're all over this as you usually are. Unfortunately, as the seniors did, the VFL couldn't get it done against a pretty high-quality Brisbane side.
Yeah, as we were just saying, tall's not really in the ones or the twos. Hard to come by at the moment, boys. Despite Oscar Steen doing his bit in the ruck, but I tell you what, it was a 67-point drubbing of the Pies
Ooh.
up there in Ipswich. Jacoboy didn't make it in the end.
Nah, didn't quite have enough time on my hands, Marcus, unfortunately, to venture into Ipswich, but I'll try and include it on the agenda next time I head up.
Very good. It was a worthy allocation to have Dukes' diaries, I'm sure, for the 2024 campaign. Now, the Pies, we were never really in it for this match. We went down by a few goals a quarter time and we just could not handle the Brisbane pressure and their surge footy. So big losers in this game, and let's just hope it's a blip on the radar once more. Just getting to some noteworthy performers. Finn McRae's probably starting to bang down the door on the ones. I think it's still a very difficult midfield to break into, regardless of how well he's going. But Ed Allen, another solid performer with the 23 touches. I'd love to see him make a bit like a mid-season debut, boys. We'll see how we go with that. But yeah, and then we mentioned Jack Ginnivan before. Only kicked the 1 goal and 11 disposals. So I'm not sure that sort of performance really gets the coaches thinking, hey, Jack, we need you back in the side right now, particularly with Bobby Hill playing the way he is. And Trent Bianco, quite a game for Trent. So he's a guy that we've kind of stopped talking about, unfortunately, after a really solid end to the year last year. 16 touches, has had some very strong performances. So he's another guy that probably needs to do a little bit more. Joshy Carmichael, solid with 21 disposals, but really a loss like that doesn't do any players any favours trying to get back into the ones. So
The VFL, Nico, I believe, also coming off a very short break as well. So no doubt that has an impact. Playing, Thursday Arvo footy in the Brisbane heat, and it was hot on Thursday during the day. So yeah, hopefully just a blip on the radar, and they're back on track this week.
Yeah, Saturday round 2, then straight into that Thursday day slot against the Lions. So you're spot on there. Surge's notes: the second half Lions pressure overwhelmed the young Pies. Brisbane had 11 AFL players, Collingwood just the 7. Lions 2 polished and well drilled. Pies better 40 experience. Huswaite, McRae and Rusco our best. Goals to Glover 2. Guinea 1. Brackets, poor day. Steen, Richards and Allen, okay, go Pies. So first-hand experience from Serge. He was actually there in Ipswich watching it live, so he would definitely have a good read on it. So if he says Guinea was poor, then Guinea was poor. So there's no arguing with that.
the Surge doesn't muck around. So look, we do drop down to 7th on the ladder after that loss, first loss for the year. So just being careful with how much we read into that. This weekend we play Box Hill 12 noon on Sunday at Box Hill City Oval. So that'll be a good contest. And we'll see if some of these players who are probably starting to put together some nice seasons, Finn McRae first and foremost, can continue their good form. But back on the winners list would be nice as well.
And speaking of back on the winners list, the VFLW girls got up back on the winners list too after their loss last week. They defeated Casey to the tune of 17 points, and they moved themselves just shy of that top 6 spot. Now with a 2-1 record in the VFLW. And then their next game is also against Box Hill, pretty much after the VFL. So it's the VFL first and the VFLW come in and they take on Box Hill at Box Hill City Oval from 3:30. So plenty of Pies action on Sunday between the VFL, VFLW and the AFL. So yes, lots to look forward to there. Now, before we wrap up, we've got our next installment of 20 questions. So you got 20 questions to guess the Collingwood player that I'm thinking of. Edition 2. Underway. Straight into it. You got 20 questions?
I was about to hit the sting or something that you come up with. Then, Nico. Let's put us straight on the spot.
Straight on the spot. Let's go.
Oh, God.
We've got 20 questions, 10 questions each, effectively, isn't it?
Well, you can take all 20 if you feel like that's how you're going to get through.
Am I a current Collingwood player?
You're not a current Collingwood player.
Have I played in the past 10 years?
Yes.
Did I play in a losing grand final?
No.
That narrows it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Am I a ruckman?
You are. Great get.
Yeah, thought it'd be topical this week, Nico. I've got a bloke in my head. This would be extraordinary if I could pull this off early.
Go
Am I
on.
Ben Hudson?
You're not Ben Hudson.
Oh,
You're
gee.
not Ben Hudson.
The Lions, Ruckman. Yeah, bit going on
No,
there.
you're not Ben Hudson.
Okay, so are we now just peeling off Ruckman from the last decade, are we?
We must.
Last 10 years. Did I play under Nathan Buckley?
You did.
Narrows it down a little bit again, Jacko.
I'm a ruckman. I'm not like a pinch hitting
No,
ruckman in the forward.
genuine.
Genuine ruckman.
Oh, am I still an active player in the
No.
system? Okay.
Did I play at another club?
You did.
I'm stumped.
You're close.
Is it Lee Brown?
It's not Lee Brown.
Oh, he's played the Roos.
That would have been funny considering the conversation we've
I was
had.
kind of hoping that would have happened.
Ruckman in the last 10 years, played under Buckley. Hasn't played in a losing grand final, so 2018, 2011 eliminated.
And has played at another club. Okay. I feel like we've got traction here, but
Did I play for another club after I played for Collingwood?
Yes.
Oh. Far out.
10 down, 10 to go.
this game's so much harder when you're on a podcast. I was just having a few with my mates on
That's
a
true.
weekend. I'd probably have it after number 8. Did I play more games at Collingwood than my second team?
Yes.
Okay, so I predominantly played at the Pies, presumably between like 2010 and 2017.
There'll be people in their cars or at home
Yeah,
listening to this
100%.
screaming down the microphone what it is. And I just cannot for the life of me think of one. We've ruled out. We can't rule out Ben Hudson. It's not Jared Witts.
Am I Cameron Wood?
You are Cameron Wood.
Bang.
Well done.
Marcus.
Thank
12
you.
questions. Marcus gets it with Cameron Wood.
Played at the Blues.
Brisbane, Collingwood, then Carlton. 48 games with the Pies. 21 goals between 2008 and 2012. So 1 year under Bucks is probably what trumped you a little bit because technically he did play in 2012. So I figured he was the man that came in that 2011 period with Jolly being injured and they
Mm.
needed someone to come in and he was able to do so. But then pretty much they didn't want to go with him. He played 6 games in 2012. So 6
Yeah.
games on the Bucks was enough to get that. Well done, Marcus.
One
So
of, one of those guys who just never quite did enough when he
Mhm.
came in, I felt. But he was okay from time to time. Just, I don't know. Bit of a Josh Fraser early days kind of vibe.
So we're 1-1. Jack's gotten
Yeah.
1 and Marcus has gotten 1. So we're 1 apiece. So
Well done, Nico.
see how this series goes. But great way to wrap up this week's episode. Looking forward to seeing how you go over in Radelaide, Jack, with the gather round. Are you looking forward to it?
I am, Nico. It's going to be good. I'm sort of a little bit annoyed that I won't be there for more of what is being touted as the footy festival for the whole sort of 3 to 4 days. I'm only going for Sunday and then coming back Monday just due to work commitments. But yeah, another early morning start. I think a 7 a.m. flight from Melbourne to Adelaide on Sunday to ensure we don't miss the late start this week, which is at 4:40, the last game of the round. So we're looking forward to it. First time going to Adelaide, first time Adelaide Oval, and planning to go back there for the Port game later in the year if I can get my hands on some tickets. I know that'll be nice and tough. Battle of the 2 Magpies, or sorry, just the 1 Magpies and the anyway. But nah, should be good. I'll try my best to keep you updated with
Duke's
the
Diaries,
diaries,
come on.
which I'm sure was an absolute hit, no doubt, on Thursday.
No doubt about it. So, Nico, are we going to talk about the game at all? Because St Kilda, what they're doing with the players they still have out is quite extraordinary
Well,
under Ross Lyon. They've
I
got some
think-
serious names still to come into the team. So we need to be very careful this weekend.
I think everyone's been shocked by just how quickly they've risen under Ross Lyon and the fact that they've been... I know they've had a relatively okay run in terms of the teams they've played, but nonetheless, they've been winning some in quite...
Healthy margins.
Yeah, 100%. So one to keep an eye on. I think the only one expected to come back potentially is Tim Membry to come back in for that St Kilda team. But other than that, I'll just see Derek over there. He's waving a lid, just reminding us that the lid is definitely on. In case you're wondering, Derek, our producer, is a St Kilda fan, and it will be a fascinating episode next week if we get beat. Let's just put it that way.
But that Max King, Zach Jones, I don't think Jack Steele's going to play this week.
I couldn't assume.
Fortunately for the Saints, fortunately for us. Jack Billings, Nick Caulfield. I mean, like and Jimmy Webster, these are first choice picks coming through. So Ross Lyon is clearly back with a vengeance if he's got him producing 4-zip after the first month of footy, gents. So we might get to the Instagram live on Thursday, Nico. We might.
Idea.
But if we don't, I just thought, new seg for the pod, a Monday headline before the game.
Ooh, okay.
Tell me
Marcus
right now on the spot what is going to happen and who is going to win the game for the Collingwood Footy Club.
That is a great one. I like it, Marcus. Very impressive. You've had to make us think a bit. You've put me on the spot.
Because we haven't been doing the
no, we haven't, and
the usual roundup, and it's fair enough because it's earlier in the week and all that sort of thing. But a Monday
headline. So we're going to sit back here in 6 days, sit in this studio.
Yep.
And
what would you say on the back page of the Herald Sun there?
Pies return to exceptional form despite lacking key areas such as ruckman.
That is a very long headline. That is an incredible.
Come on, Nico, you're the journo here.
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot.
I've got to get right
after
into
you just
it
put
then.
us on the spot with C Wood.
With some questions. Brody Mychek finally breaks his career high in goals and will kick 5+ to win us the game.
Mychek for 5.
5+. He is yet to get past 4 goals in his individual career. He's been so close so many times to get past 4. It hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
Gave us a little bit of a preview against the Lions. Let's see that he can go up against a very talented Saints defence, might I add. It's going to be tough getting past a Ross Lyon back line, but if we do and the shackles break open, I think he will be the beneficiary of it, particularly if McStay does play that ruck role again. Mychek might be the man. So 5.
Beautiful.
Marcus?
Love it. Mine is N. Dacos cements Brownlow favourite odds with another 3-vote performance, I think.
Well, I think he would. If he manages to get another 3, that's pretty.
If there's one thing the lid's off for, it's Nick Dacos having another blinder, I'll tell you that much.
We might have to just start putting some pictures of him around on the tables, mate.
That'd be a good one for Lukey, though. I'd love to hear the Pies Nation faithful Monday headline before the game as well.
That is a very good idea. Well, so let's get him onto that. So the best way to get involved then is to get on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, AskPiesNation, @PiesNation, every Pies Nation, because we're going to have a lot more interactive things like that. Very good that you brought that to the table, Marcus. A perfect way to wrap up this episode of the podcast. Marcus, Jack, I know I pointed the wrong way there. I've called you Marcus and Jack, but boys, great to have you on again this week.
Thank you, Nico. Jacko.
Thank you, boys. Always a pleasure. I look forward to I'm going to miss next week, unfortunately, but I'll try my best. It was a bit of a hard one to keep on top with the old Duke's diaries. It was a bit sporadic. I forgot about it a couple of times, I won't lie, and then, jumped on very unfamiliar territory for me. So hopefully version 2.0 is a bit better.
And did Chops enjoy it?
Oh, yeah, Chops loved it. Absolutely. He did. Surprised there was no comments in the Pies Nation Instagram page from him, but no, I got plenty of feedback from friends and family.
Very good.
Yeah, look forward to taking
There's
it
not
on board.
much to do in Adelaide anyway, so I think you'll have plenty of time to do some diaries for us. But until next week, I've been your host, Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening or watching to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Thanks for listening to the Pies Nation podcast, and thanks to Liquorland, who are proud partners of the show. Liquorland have all your drink needs for when the siren calls. Liquorland, from the land you love. Please drink responsibly.